there, hello ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to another edition of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show. Of course, you know who I am. I'm Mr. Warren Hayes, and it's Thursday night, and it is Thursday, May 14th. We're going to be talking about pro wrestling. Whole week of stuff that happened in pro wrestling, some good, some bad, some great, some sad? I don't know. But hey, you know what? We're going to be talking about it right here live on the Mr. Warren Hayes, because that's what we talk about every Thursday right here, because it's recorded live on Thursdays on youtube.com/Mr. Warren Hayes. That's right. I do this in front of a live audience of people who come in and join me for the proceedings and jump in and participate in a lively, wonderful chat room. And tonight we have Tim Traver, who's here. How you doing? Tim Throwback is here as well. Kelly, how are you? Good to see you as well. Benoit is here as well. Patrick Mason, Robert Larry, hello everyone. DGMC is in the house as well. Tyler Drummond is here. Look at that. Blaine Mendoza, the world's most handsome mod, has joined us this evening. Good to see you. Good to see you off of the front lines of the pandemic, my man. Anakin is here as well. Scott Frame. Hey, what a fresh, fantastic group of people who are here to listen to me talk about wrestling and chat about wrestling and have just good times about wrestling. And you know, if you're watching right now and you're already liking it, hey, why don't you go ahead and draw and give the video a thumbs up here on youtube.com. Just give it a thumbs up. Maybe you're watching this later on your own accord, and if you enjoyed it, well, hey, consider giving a thumbs up as well. And if you're listening to this on your favorite podcast application, because yes, there is audio of the Mr. Warren Hayes Show that ends up into the podcast audio universe, well, then show some love on that platform there, whether it be a review, a follow, a like, a subscribe, whatever you can do. That kind of stuff always helps. And it helps a lot. And by the way, not only can you find it on find the Mr. Warren Hayes Show on podcast applications, but you can also find it on the Smart to Death Radio Network. I'm part of that, and it's fantastic stuff over there with Smart to Death and No Particular Angle, Queen's Court, Badlands, Why We Watch, so on and so forth. So many podcasts, so many great creators on there. So you can head on over and subscribe to the Smart to Death Radio Network. You get a whole bunch of people with a whole bunch of fantastic wrestling takes, because we all like fantastic wrestling takes. Don't forget, folks, after we are done here this evening, we head on over to patreon.com/Mr. Warren Hayes for the post show. Warren is off the clock, post stream. Going to be talking about a few different things. Going to be talking about Sami Zayn and the IC title. Going to be talking about the return of the Iconics as well. Maybe mourn the loss of Vanguard 1 a little. That's going to be happening after the show. Much more chill, chat a lot of interaction with the patrons who are there, who join live. So come on over. It's a good time right after we're done here. Of course, you have to subscribe. That's a good way to support the show. Another good way to support the show is to become a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes YouTube channel as well. You can become a member. It's right on the channel page, just right there. There's a button that says join. Then you become a member. When you become a member, you get access to emojis. If you like to come here on the live chat, you get some exclusive emojis. You get some hot trash. You get warm soda and cool beans emojis. But we're debuting 2 new emojis today. And folks, if there are members, and I know there are in the chat right now, you can display them proudly. We've got a Kristen Ashley emoji who's silently judging you. Plus, we've got a Goldberg emoji. There you go. Got a Goldberg emoji. I'm sure that's going to make a bunch of you happy. So consider becoming a member here. Or you can also drop a super chat in the chat, and I will read your question, comment, thought, mood, opinion, as long as it's not offensive, here live online. And we can start right off the bat with Throwback, who dropped us a very generous super chat. Thank you very much, Throwback. Very appreciated. Throwback says, with states like Arizona opening for all professional sports as of tomorrow, do you think there is a chance that WWE will go to any state that wants them? Vince said it in the Q1 conference, and end up in Arizona or elsewhere. Sure. But, I'm in a very much a wait and see mood to see how arenas are going to deal with this, because it's one thing to start going back on the road, but if you're going to do social distancing measures within your arenas, then you're not filling up your arena. So let's say you go to a 12,000 seat arena, but because, and I'm just spitballing here, we're just talking, right? I don't have any data. I'm just throwing hypotheses out there. If you have a 12,000 seat arena and you have to fill out only half of it so that you can respect social distancing, then you're not exactly running your arena at full capacity, and maybe not returning as much money as an event being held there as well. So is it a good idea for WWE to go back on the road if the arenas aren't filling up? I'm pretty sure a lot of their business model has to, as far as live shows go, I'm pretty sure they have to achieve a certain percentage of an arena being filled up to run cost effectively. Probably not sellouts on every show. That wouldn't be realistic, but I don't know what it is. Is it 70%? Is it 50%? It depends on the bar where WWE on the road is profitable. So maybe they go on the road and maybe it's not as big as an extravaganza as it is. Maybe they don't pull out the pyro and stuff I don't know. We'll see what happens. And my advice to you all, even though arenas are opening up and stuff is going on, just stay safe. Stay safe as much as you can. I still think that the best way to combat the virus is to stay at home, wash your hands, don't touch your face, and stay away from stupid people. That's the best advice I feel that exists out there, regardless of how happy people are at arenas opening back up. Nick Wolf, how you doing, Nick Wolf? Leaves a $2 super chat. Says, thank you very much. Says, anyone missed SRS last night? Not me. Ooh. He's talking about the my hosting duties over on the Wednesday Night Wars podcast. Sean was covering UFC, that poor soul. So I was anchoring the thing. Thank you, Nick. That's very, very kind of you. Anakin left a super chat. How you doing? Thank you very much. Does anyone buy Brody Lee saying his character is not based on Vince? That's about as likely as Halo ever being on PlayStation. Yeah, it's like people who say, no. Wait, what was that? What was that first-person shooter that came out on the PlayStation 3? Shoot. I'm drawing a blank. But yeah, look, to come back to your original question, I got lost in the thought there. I thought that's not going to come around. I'm not buying that the Brody Lee character isn't based on Vince McMahon. It's totally based on Vince McMahon, and I'm okay with that. You create characters based on what you know. I'm okay with it. It doesn't bother me. I think it's really funny that he's like, oh no, not based on Vince McMahon. Sure. Rob Wilkins left a super chat as well. Thank you, Rob. Says, hi, Warren and the gang. Hope all is well. Hi, Throwback. Throwback getting his own shout outs in the super chat. Look at him go. Look at him go. So there we are. Hey, you know what? I think we're going to... Oh, hey, by the way, belltobells.com is a good place if you want to hear about women's wrestling coverage, women's wrestling news. Because the world of women's wrestling is fantastic, and Bell to Bells, which just turned a full year old, is a good way to get some of that good wrestling, women's wrestling knowledge stuff. belltobells.com, BELLTOBELLES is where you need to go. More super chats. Anakin says, are you thinking of Killzone or Resistance? Throwback says, the game was Time Crisis. No, Anakin is right. I was thinking about Killzone. That was the one I was thinking about. I was like, that kind of like Halo. It's like saying, Killzone, no, this is not Halo clone. We not do Halo. Well, I don't want to call it clone, but not based on Halo. No, we come up with idea all by ourselves. Yes. Sure. Ladies and gentlemen, it's time for the weekly wrestling inspection. streaks. I was on a streak, god damn it. Hey, everyone. I want to say hello to Derek Stark, who just popped into the chat. How you doing, Derek? JPQ of the No Particular Angle podcast is here as well. Hello, John. Daniel Price is here as well. How you doing? Kristen Ashley has joined us as well. That's fantastic. And Carlos is here. How you doing? Sports and Things. Good to see you. Oh, and wait a second. Taxi cab driver? How you doing? Welcome to the chat. Hope I'm not forgetting anyone. I always feel bad if I forget someone. It's a double-edged sword. I like saying hello and welcome to people who are dropping in the chat, but then I feel bad if I forget people. It's a double-edged sword. So I want to give some thoughts on Money in the Bank before we start. Well, not before we start. To begin with, gonna skip over most of SmackDown because a lot of what happened on SmackDown last Friday was resolved as of Sunday, so there's not much reason to talk about it except for Mandy versus Sonya that they decided to put as a blow-off on Friday Night SmackDown, and that to me is a baffling decision. Don't get me wrong, I thought the match was good for the time that they had. I thought Mandy showed great fire. Her V-triggers are still fantastic. But guys, gals, what are we doing? What's the issue here? Quite probably, the absolute best feud WWE has going, and you're not putting the blow-off match on your pay-per-view. You're dumping it on a Friday night. And not only that, you're giving it like 6 minutes. And this just baffled my mind. Now, I'm giving it warm soda because on one hand, I thought the match was good. And the other good thing here is that Sonya won. And Sonya has to come out. I'm going to hammer this one home as much as I can. Sonya has to come forward as an absolute terrifying, disgusting heel. And how do you build a heel? How do you build a new star? By having that new star heel, beat up the babyface. I think Mandy can take the losses. She's over. She's okay. She's with Otis. Otis is super over right now. He has I was going to say crowd sympathy, but audience sympathy. Putting Sonya over is the best thing to do. But why? Why was this not a match on pay-per-view? Why was this not given 12 minutes? At least. And that's what boggles my mind. I know there's a thought process saying, well, this feud isn't over. Probably. But your first match, this is the match that everyone was waiting for. This is the match that you're like, yeah, this is the one we want. You give it 6 minutes on a SmackDown? Feels like a throwaway. Women don't have time to shine, spread their wings, and really take off. Those are my final thoughts. But let's talk about Money in the Bank. Look, Money in the Bank overall. Look, I'm going to keep the warm soda logo right here. I'm still very torn about mostly about the main event, right? But I don't want to get into the main event just yet. First of all, match of the night, absolute match of the night, Drew McIntyre versus Seth Rollins. That was, and to me right now, one of the best main roster matches that WWE has given us this year. This was really good. And honestly, there wasn't much doubt that this was going to be good. Not with two talented guys like Seth Rollins and Drew McIntyre. And regardless of what you think about Seth and his personality and what he's able to do online, these two guys together, they're fantastic. There is absolutely no reason for these two to not have a fantastic match. It was really great, and it helped establish Drew's persona as a champion, the way that he carries himself in the ring, the way he handles himself. The fact that at the end he extends a hand to Seth Rollins like, hey, good fight, buddy. and Seth shook the hand, he's creating a championship persona for himself, and I appreciate it. And it's not a championship persona that is suddenly like all smiles and wide-eyed and like, ooh, I worked so hard to get here. We know you worked hard to get there. We saw the Highlander clips on top of that you were doing out in Scotland. We saw all of that. This was really, really good. A fantastic, fantastic match. And it's Drew's most convincing win so far. He beat the Big Show in a, if you want to call it a match, I don't know exactly what it was, but it was so. His next match against, and then he got into this thing with Andrade. Not that the matches weren't good, but there was no way that Andrade was beating Drew. This was his first really convincing win as a champion. So I'm really, really happy with that. I also thought Jeff Hardy versus Cesaro was damn good, and it got time on the pre-show, which is something that we're not used to seeing. It was real good. And if you wanted Jeff Hardy to look like $1 million upon his return, Cesaro was the man to do it. Cesaro did it fantastically. It was such a good match. I thought Bray versus Braun was pretty good. I thought it was pretty good. I thought it was a good brawl. It worked in the context. It's just the finish that I don't quite understand. But, and I understand, but I also don't understand. Here's what, I understand the end of the match as far as Bray Wyatt as a character goes. Because Bray Wyatt basically was extending a hand, right, to Braun to say, come back to the family, come back to me. We can be great together again. The mask, Braun getting flashbacks of his time within the cult, like someone who's been deprogrammed from being in a cult. So Bray working on that psychologically as well. It all makes sense. And then at the end, he's like, here's the mask. Why don't you come back? And then Braun puts it on, and then they're like, oh my God, we're back together. But Braun double-crossed him, essentially. He's like, no, I'm done with you. So now the next step, we all see it coming. It's the Fiend. The Fiend doesn't care. The Fiend just wants to slaughter people. Bray's like, no. Give me a chance with Braun. Bray said it in the ring at some point. He said, he didn't want this. He meaning the Fiend, said he didn't want this. I want you to come back to me. Braun shot on it. So it's like, so Bray's like, okay, well, you're stuck with the Fiend now. So I understand that. But this is again proof that the Bray Wyatt character doesn't need to be involved in a title picture. He doesn't need titles because, again, here, the story is bigger than the title. It doesn't matter if Braun had the title or not. And you don't get the impression that Bray really wants the title. He just wants to screw around with people, but the title isn't important. And if your title isn't important enough for people to fight for it, what's the point of having a title? So that's why it doesn't quite make sense to me. Because if Bray really wanted the title, he should have fought for it, but he didn't. He wanted Bray. But then again, there's a clear argument to say, you know what? We didn't need Bray Wyatt back in the title picture so soon, and I agree. And here's the thing, is that the Fiend has to beat Bray Wyatt if that's where they're going. The Fiend has to. He absolutely has to. And let's move on to the main event. We'll talk about the Money in the Bank ladder match. I thought, and I'm very, very divided on it. I'm very, very divided because I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it either. But I didn't hate it. I didn't hate it, but I didn't like it either. The very definition of warm soda, ladies and gentlemen. The very definition. I thought it was the weakest of the. I really thought it was the weakest of the cinematic matches that WWE put on so far. Some of my takeaways: Dana Brooke is a fucking moron because the briefcase was on the roof. I don't know how many times this was hammered home. Why did she think that the briefcase that was in the conference room was the one? She's a tool. Plus, she gets creamed with the frame, and she's still walking around with it. It was funny, don't get me wrong, but Dana was a moron. Dana is a moron now. In my eyes, she's an idiot. Do you want to capitalize on that? Make her a moron moving forward. Create a gimmick out of it. Give her something, because she was really stupid. Not as stupid as Stephanie McMahon doing her part, clearly like calling in on Skype. That was weird. I wasn't sure how to feel about AJ Styles going around being afraid of Undertaker and stuff like that. I don't know. I felt there was a lot of haha moving forward, despite the fact that Asuka jumping off the mezzanine right onto all the women on the ground floor was pretty cool. I was like, ooh, this is going to be good. But no, there was a lot of haha. The brother love stuff. The Doink the Clown wasn't, not any of the Doink the Clowns, just some dude in Doink makeup. If I never see John Laurinaitis again, it won't be too soon. I guess at this point, there's no more, we don't have to talk about Baron Corbin murdering anyone because it was all debunked. There was a subroof. They only fell 6 feet. Just 6 feet. No biggie. But the winners, as far as the winners go, Otis and Asuka. Asuka, I was surprised with both. I had picked Dark Horse Dana Brooke to win. That was my instinct. I was like, ooh. But clearly they have other plans, and we'll get into those in a minute. But Otis and Asuka, two good choices. Otis, it hasn't been cleared up yet, but SmackDown is tomorrow. We'll see what's going to happen. Man, if they do the briefcase, I know Otis was a controversial pick, but if they cash in on a tag team, if it's a tag team cash in, I'm here for that because we haven't seen that in a while. We've never seen that. We've never seen that. So that's fantastic. I like new things. I like them trying out new stuff. This is a very simple, tiny thing that they can do to make things very different. So I like it. It's a good stuff. It is a good stuff. It's good stuff. Let's see some super chats real quick. Anakin says, did you see that Ghost of Tsushima State of Play today? Feudal Japan set action game for PS4. I know I haven't seen, well, I've heard about but I didn't see anything regarding the State of Play today. I didn't see the State of Play today, but looking forward to it. It looks to be a very good game. Anakin left another super chat saying, what about the theory that they'll do a double turn and Sonya and Mandy will swap roles? I don't see why. There's no need to convolute it more than this, because I know a lot of people say Mandy isn't quite convincing as a babyface. I disagree. I think she's a good babyface. I think Mandy is a better heel. People are already thinking about double turns when it's like, hey, you know what? Let's leave these people grow into their roles to begin with. Let's let Sonya develop a personality before trying to give her another personality, kind of thing. Throwback leaves another super chat. Thank you. Throwback says, last victory lap. LOL. The end of the men's Money in the Bank was amazing. The match was great. And the Taker documentary was amazing. Also, Throwback is referencing the fact that he's called me out a couple of times at how proud he was to have called the fact that Otis was going to win Money in the Bank, and he's been clamoring it everywhere. Thank you. So, and I haven't watched the whole Undertaker documentary just yet, but yes, from what I've seen, it's great. I've been watching the Dark Side of the Ring stuff. It's been fantastic. Tim Traver leaves a super chat. Thank you, Tim. Says, got my pop and snack. It sounds like a dance move. But I know it's yours. Yeah, I hope you enjoyed. Thank you for being here, Tim. Get the Tables podcast. Thank you, sir. Leaving us a super sticker, some popcorn. That'll be good. Anakin says, with another super chat, how much did the T-Rex head pop you? I'd seen the T-Rex head before. I've seen pictures of Vince McMahon's office. I was actually wondering if they were really going to do it in Vince's office because of the dinosaur bones. And when they did, I popped when I saw that they were actually doing it there. I was like, oh, they're going ahead with it. Didn't last very long. What the hell is Vince doing working on a Sunday night, on a pay-per-view night in his office? Vince, you should be watching your productions instead of working. Take a break sometimes, buddy. Let's move on to some cool beans. Let's move on to some cool beans. Becky Lynch is pregnant. She's going to be a mom. I like this. She gave a very emotional speech, talked about how how she deserves to tell that we the fans deserve to know because we We've always had her back.
Yeah.
She has to go away for a while. Asuka comes out and she's wondering why Becky has the briefcase, because Becky came out with the briefcase, and she's like, Asuka, you dumb bitch, you didn't open the briefcase since you got it. She didn't say that, but that's kind of what went through my head. Opens the briefcase, the title is in there. Asuka gets handed the Raw title. So Asuka is the Raw Women's Champion, which is fantastic, and it makes perfect sense. As far as Becky goes, it was a great moment. And I saw quite a few people, and actually CM Punk, who was on backstage, said, missed opportunity. They should have had Asuka missed Becky and take the title and just be just establish her as a top tier heel at that point, and people be like, boo, Asuka. And he's not wrong. It would have been a great moment. Becky doesn't have to bump, and so that's all good. But why not give us just a moment of sincerity and of sincerity and emotion, and something just that feels good, something that just feels good for the fans, and without trying to gimmick an angle into it. Asuka looked sincerely happy, like they were probably all aware backstage. It wasn't a big surprise for Asuka, but they hugged. And it was a nice moment. And it was a nice moment for the fans. Because if there's one thing that Becky Lynch was right, and just by the way she acts on social media, the way she interacts with fans, she understands. When she said that it is the fans who always had my back, she knows this is right. Because no matter how poorly Becky has been booked, or was booked, I should say, before becoming the man, no matter how, all those months, regardless of all the months where she was being jobbed out, where she was made captain of the Women's Survivor Series team and was pinned in the first 90 seconds of the match and eliminated, no matter how many times they mistreated her, the audience was always behind her, because she always had that connection. She had that thing, that intangible that made her a favorite with the audience. And when WWE wanted to make her heel, we revolted. We stood up against it. We were like, no, we like Becky. This is cool. We're not going to boo for her. Try as much as you can. It ain't going to happen. And by God, they tried. WWE tried. But the fans said something else. She recognizes it, and this was a moment for Becky Lynch, more like the person than the performer, and it was a wonderful moment, and I loved it, and I'm glad they didn't gimmick it. I think it would have taken away some of the special part. It would have taken away some of the special, the specialness of the situation, in my opinion, of course. And of course, this all ended up with Shayna cutting a disgusting promo, right? Like the I Hate Kids, mothers suck. I was stunned. I was like, is she really saying all of this? But it worked. It worked. And then later on, Natalya comes and caps it off after she hears Shayna's promo about how motherhood is overrated, essentially, and how children are going to ruin your career. Natalya comes up to her and gives the greatest line ever to challenge someone. She comes up and she says, "Hey, Shayna, do you know how bad it makes you look to disrespect the miracle that is motherhood?" Oh! Poor Natalya. Poor, cringy, vanilla Natalya, who has no personality and who gets fed these god-awful... Who says that? You're steamed up. You're like, if anything else, it's like, Shayna, where the hell do you get off disrespecting Becky Lynch and her motherhood like that? She wants to be a mom. What do you have to do? You think you're some tough? You think you're tough guy or something? You know, it's like, disrespect the miracle that is motherhood. By the way, no disrespect. The miracle is childbirth. Motherhood is a fantastic thing. You know, having a woman carrying a child is amazing, and it's fantastic in and about itself. But it's The miracle, it's childbirth. The miracle is I'm just putting that out there. My God. Get the Tables podcast leaves another super chat, says, have a great show, Warren. Thank you very much, Tony. Throwback 27 says, there's an Instagram post from Seth with Becky holding the pregnancy test saying December can't come any sooner, but Stone Cold Shayna Baszler, OMG, you know it's bad when Charlie Caruso has to tweet after interviewing her. That was just like Throwback said here. Seth has to lean into this on a personal side, and I understand why they don't want Seth the heel to be like, I'm a father. Seth, they need strong heels in WWE from top to bottom right now. So they need to keep Seth away from the hey, cool Seth, congratulations. He has to stay focused on his thing, and it makes him look a little more callous too. So if they're gimmicking, if anything, they're gimmicking his angle into this. So I like it, but of course we're happy for Seth and Becky. Congratulations to them both. December can't come too soon. And can you imagine how fucking psyched everyone is going to be when Becky Lynch comes back in 2021? If she comes back, but she'll probably come back. Can you imagine when she pops back on WWE television? People are gonna go nuts. It's gonna be good stuff. Good stuff. Want to say hello to Goodfella1422. How you doing? And Jason PS3. Hello. Acer 5000. Good to see you as well. Welcome to the chat. Man, I am going over my time like it is nobody's business, but it's my show, so who's gonna stop me? All right, we're gonna head on over. We're gonna keep some cool beans going. We're gonna talk about NWA came back this week. NWA Superpower. This was a lead-in show that they had set up for. This is a show that they had taped. I think like February or early March or something like that. They had taped to get hype for the Crockett Cup, and they've been sitting on it for a while, and they decided to pull it out, coupled with an announcement by NWA President William Patrick Corgan to announce the debut of Carneytown. What is it? Carneytown, I think. Carneytown. That's going to start next week in lieu of some in-ring action. So I'm interested to see that. But I want to talk about Camille. I want to talk about how great Camille is being booked so far in NWA. She actually had her debut match at Superpower. Now they had broadcast the match 2 Tuesdays ago. They had like isolated just the match and hyped it up and put it out there. So if you had seen that match, well, you saw the match at Superpower, but still it bears to be mentioned here, especially since I didn't talk about it 2 weeks ago, that the match standalone in and about itself, or even during the was fantastic. Camille is a bloody star, and they're booking her as such. She's a tall woman. She's strong as an ox. She looks imposing, impressive, and she was against Mandy Max, I think. I can't remember, but she tossed her around the ring. Avalanched her in the corner, hit a power slam, leg lariated her, hits a steamroller and the spear for the win. It was a squash match in and about itself. And the way they've been and then they had a whole extended sequence. She didn't cut an in-ring promo, but they had a vignette set up for her where she did speak for the first time, talking about her past when she was younger, how much of a sports prodigy she was and everything she did, whether it be softball or arena football. She'd just pick up a sport and it'd be easy for her. And it's great stuff, and you should definitely listen to it. It helps flesh out Camille so much and make her much more approachable, and you understand her more. It was really good stuff. And they've been doing such a good job with her because there was legitimate reason to be excited to see her. And a few episodes back, she speared Allison Kay, former NWA World's Women's Champion. She spears her in the middle of the ring, has her debut, destroys a jabroni. This, folks, is how you build a star. This is it. Now, longtime viewers of the MrWarrenHayes show will know, not even all that long time, just a few weeks ago, you guys know how I felt about a certain Kenny Omega match. You guys know how I felt about a certain Hikaru Shida match, where they're in AEW being put up with these jabronis, no names that haven't been signed, and yet end up having competitive matches when these are your bona fide stars. Kenny Omega is a bona fide star. My God, he is a former IWGP heavyweight champion. He is one of the best wrestlers currently out there. Hikaru Shida is unquestionably the most well-rounded women's wrestler that AEW has. She is a top star. She has been the number one contender for the AEW championship for weeks. Why are these people having competitive matches with no ones, with people that we do not know and who are clearly there just to be enhancement talent? I have no problem with enhancement talent when you're enhancing someone. And when you're having competitive matches, you're enhancing two people at once. And the purpose of an enhancement match, call it an enhancement match, a jobber match, a squash match, whatever you want to call it, but it is to enhance a performer. I can appreciate and can get behind Kenny Omega and Shida going to their partners and saying, you know what? We've been given 10 minutes. Let's get some back and forth in. You'll get your moment. I'll get my moment. And I can appreciate that that's very generous. And that's a testament to the goodwill that they have towards these individuals, because Angels, who had his match with Kenny Omega, was unquestionably the biggest match of his career. He got a moment to shine. Good for him. But when you do stuff like you did with Camille, where she goes in, she steamrolls, and she stands up, and she doesn't even look like she broke a sweat, then you know, okay, this is someone I can get behind. This is someone who is very strong and is clearly a star. I need to pay attention to this person. And that's just the way it goes. That is basic wrestling booking philosophy. So here there's no question to me. They've got plans for Camille. I have to keep my eye out on Camille because Camille is going to be a game changer. Hikaru Shida, bless her, I love her, but if she's having 10-minute competitive matches with Anna Jay, who was not signed at the time, I'm like, well, okay, but how is she's going to get murdered by Nyla Rose, isn't she? If she can't put away talent that's not even on the roster. Again, I understand how everything connects and how these decisions are made. And yes, it's a good moment to show off new talent. But also it's not necessarily a good moment to show off new talent. Look at Chris Jericho last night. Jericho with Pineapple Pete. This match has been hyped for weeks. It was the People's Championship. It was the People's main event. Pineapple Pete ran into a Judas Effect, and that was it. The match lasted like a minute. I didn't need to see Pineapple Pete put on a clinic. I need to see Chris Jericho, greatest of all time, former AEW World Champion, destroy the dude. And that's what he did. With the Judas Effect. Keeps the Judas Effect, despite the fact that it's a weird finisher. Keeps the Judas Effect strong. Mission accomplished. That's what it's for. Anywho. Keep your eye out on Camille. If anything, right now, Camille is going to be a really good reason to watch NWA if you're not watching Power already. Let's move on to some more warm soda here. Want to say hello to One Fall Podcast who are in the chat, and Bobby Rivera. Ooh, wish my parents had gave me that name. Welcome. Well, yeah, and change my last name to Rivera as well. Thank you very much for being here in the chat. some warm soda. Last evening on NXT television, the NXT Tag Team Champions, Matt Riddle and Timothy Thatcher, defended the titles against Imperium. At some point during the match, Matt Riddle monkey flips Marcel Bartel onto Timothy Thatcher, who's on the apron, and Thatcher tumbles off the apron to the floor. Thatcher gets super pissed, and he's like, "Nah, son, I'm done." And he walks back up the ramp while Riddle is left alone to fend off the two remaining members of Imperium. And he's not able. He's Matt Riddle, but he's still just one dude. Marcel Bartel and Fabian Aichner, they're studs as well. And they defeat Riddle and become new NXT Tag Team Champions. So, heel turn, and I think it fits Timothy Thatcher. I think it's a good plan. Thatcher attacks Riddle backstage. Not once, but twice. And then they end up fighting in the main event, and Matt Riddle beats him. And this is where the warm soda comes in. I like Timothy Thatcher, and I like the reasons why he said, "Hey, you know what? I don't want to do this anymore. This is kind of stupid. We're doing game shows. We're doing silly shit. You with your flip-flops. I'm done with this. I'm a wrestler." And I can appreciate that. I can get behind that. I thought that was really, really cool. But then he attacks Riddle twice and then ends up losing in the main event. How hard is it, WWE, to just give us interest in a new star, and especially a brand new heel that you're pulling out of nowhere? Matt Riddle's a cool guy. He's a babyface. People like him. What would it have cost you to have Thatcher just destroy him? Riddle got beat up twice, ate a finisher, a 2-on-1 earlier in the evening. Everything could have been explained for Riddle to not have been at 100%, right? Thatcher attacked him twice on top of that. You didn't need to put Riddle over here. You had to put Thatcher over. Make him come off as a vicious son of a bitch, and he still could have had the finishing angle where he locks the armbar in and won't let go as we fade to black. He still could have done that too. I don't understand WWE booking sometimes. It's just like, look, we're pulling out a new star. We're pulling out a brand new heel here. But he's going to lose on his first outing. I'm like, what the fuck? It's so infuriating. It really is. And we're going to wrap this up with some more warm soda. A lot of warm soda this week, don't you think? There was a lot of that. Alonzo Smith, how you doing? Welcome to the chat. Warm soda here. The AEW rankings. And I'm just going to wrap it up here. I didn't think Dynamite was... It was a good show, but I didn't think it was really all that good. If you watched the Wednesday Night Wars podcast last night, you'll see that I sided with NXT. NXT had some better matches. I thought there was a lot less goofiness. You know, outside of a few things on Dynamite last night, the murder of Vanguard 1 notwithstanding, the one thing that I want to point out is the rankings, because, and I'm very, very divided on the AEW rankings, and I'll tell, and they encapsulated how much this love-hate relationship that I have with them within one evening, within the first hour, actually. When Jurassic Express and Best Friends came out for their match, commentary was putting over the fact that Best Friends is ranked number 2, Jurassic Express ranked number 4, so, you know, good opportunity for either or, you know, to get up there in the rankings. I'm like, oh, okay, cool. So there's already stakes here. So there's like, you know, Best Friends wants to stay closer to that number 1 spot. Jurassic Express would like to go up a little bit. So that's cool. It gives a reason for this match to happen, despite it being completely a throwaway match, right? And they even talk about how Dark Order, being stuck in Canada, might not be able to keep their number 1 position in the rankings because they haven't been competing. So I'm like, yeah, I like this. I like all of this because it all makes sense. And I'm like, then I'm thinking, okay, well, we're angling for tag teams positioning and stuff like that. I'm like, cool. Then we get to the women's match, and then they tell us, as I said a little earlier in the show, Hikaru Shida, excuse me, Hikaru Shida has been at the number one spot of the women's division for 11 weeks. And I'm like, why hasn't Shida been given a match? Why does she have to fight for a match at Double or Nothing? She has been number one for 11 weeks. Are you fucking kidding me? Why hasn't this been solidified? Why hasn't this match been given? Okay, perhaps in the context of COVID-19 and the fact that they were running at 30% roster, maybe there's some things that have to... But still, it's so infuriating to me. Because on one hand, the rankings, they use them really, really well. And on the other hand, I'm like, Jesus, people. And to me, it just... It underscores, as far as the Shida's ranking goes, it underscores the problems that they have with the women's division. It's absurd because they have trouble getting some turnaround, some turnover. Of course, it makes sense for Shida to be the number one wrestler, the number one ranked in the women's division. I keep telling you guys, I think she is the best wrestler they have in the women's division right now. I really and honestly do. So it makes sense. But I think it also shines it shines a spotlight on the problems that they have with the rest of the division if they can't move people up and down very easily like that, or can just follow through and say, all right, Shida, we're giving you a big match, here you go, kind of thing. Because they have to draw this out for 11 weeks. And I'm not saying WWE is any better. WWE is not better on this as well. They don't have a ranking system, but anyone with a pair of eyes can see that Aleister Black is practically still on an undefeated streak. He's only lost like one singles match. He lost Money in the Bank, but you know there were other people involved in the match. He's won like 85% of his matches in 2020, and he's not even sniffing a world title shot. It's stupid. It's stupid. Throwback left us another super chat again. Thank you, Throwback. Thatcher is a mad general, and having Riddle against him going into TakeOver in your house is going to be amazing. I'm hoping they fight at In Your House. Also, Gargano calling Lee out is going to be fun to see. Could mention that real quick. I think it's a cool lean in by WWE to pull out the old In Your House gimmick, put it around the NXT logo, make it give it that old 90s retro feel that a lot of people are digging. And I agree, they're probably going to have a match at TakeOver. And they still could have had a match at TakeOver and have Thatcher win last night. You know what I mean? And it is going to be amazing because these are two crazy ass nut bar catch wrestlers. It's going to be good stuff. To a bunch of people, Thatcher and Riddle is a bit of a dream match, though they fought before. It's going to be fantastic. You're going to get your money's worth out of that one. Anakin left a super chat and said, who do you like for the ladder match so far? Also, how big will that chip be? Chip? Oh, the chip. Yeah, over the... Yeah. Well, you know what? I'm going to talk about that. I'm going to talk about that right now, now that we're done with the weekly wrestling inspection. Hey, did I say hi to you, Patrick Mason? I just saw you in the chat there, and I don't remember saying hello. Hello, Pat. Hope I didn't. See that? Like, this is the thing this is where my anxiety kicks in, where I'm like, oh, did I forget someone? Hey, you know, it's not too late to become a member of the Mr. Warren Hayes channel right here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes. If you're watching live right now, head on over to the channel page. Become a member. You get a whole bunch of emojis, including Goldberg's beautiful face and Kristen Ashley looking at you scornfully, if you want to check that out. Plus, you know, you can still drop a super chat. I'll still read them. Because I like reading super chats. I like reading in general. I read a lot of books. Actually, I used to read a lot of books. I'm not going to try and pretend that I'm holier than thou. I'm like, oh, look at me reading books all the time. That isn't the case. But I did study English literature. So I've read my fair share of novels, compendiums, tomes, short stories, poetry, plays, epic poems. Read quite a bit. So yeah, let's talk about since Anakin talked about it, I wanted to talk about how the Double or Nothing card is shaping up. I think I messed around a bit with it, you know, and we've talked about it. Yes, I've read sonnets as well. I've read the Double or yes, I've read the Double or Nothing card because I've studied English literature. See. My God, I had a little fun at the expense of Double or Nothing last week. I put out a meme on Twitter, had a little fun with it, you know, saying that, you know, the 4 matches that they had announced last week, which was Cody versus Lance Archer, Jungle Boy versus NJF, Jon Moxley versus Brody Lee, and they had announced the ladder match without announcing any competitors. I thought it was a flimsy way to kick this one off. Because as much as Cody versus Lance Archer, I think is a good. I thought as good as Cody and Lance Archer were, or the feud is, I should say. It's not that big it's not a big marquee match, right? MJF versus Jungle Boy, 2 fantastic wrestlers. Don't get me wrong, but again, sort of lacks that pizzazz. Jon Moxley versus Brody Lee. This was, you know, it's a WWE upper mid card match. Yeah, you know, it's like, so I kind of felt that they were on very uneven ground, but things sort of changed over here. Throwback you're buying time for a sponsor I don't have right now. Crotch fro, I'll say that damn fro. That's all I'm gonna say. I don't have that right now. So I'm not giving them free time, and my time is it's worth something. But the card's starting to fill out this week, right? And to me, it got a lot more interesting. Of course, the best news that they've been doing right now is that they've been dropping participants for the ladder match, which is fantastic, and they gave it proper stakes, right? It's for a future AEW World Championship match. I think that was already said. I don't quite remember. So announced Darby Allin, Colt Cabana, Orange Cassidy, Ray Phoenix, motherfuckers. My God. And announced today Scorpio Sky, and apparently what they're going to put in 4 more people is what I understand. This is 8-man ladder match. This is going to be bananas. Now this is shaping up to be a must-buy pay-per-view, if only for this match, because you have got completely insane individuals here, like Darby Allin and Ray Phoenix, who don't give a shit about their body and who are going to do absolute crazy shit. Scorpio Sky in here is amazing. They have to put Sky in these situations where he will be able to shine, get his own moment in the sun, and help establish him more and more as a single star, which I think is such a good idea. Colt Cabana is fantastic as well. Orange Cassidy's going to have a ball with this. Such creative guys so far in this match. I am here for it. I really, really like it. I think it's a good idea. So that's great. Nyla Rose is going to defend the AEW Women's World Championship against Hikaru Shida. We saw that one coming, but it was confirmed yesterday with Shida's win. It's going to be no disqualification, no count out. That should be fun because Shida's not afraid. She's not afraid of, she's very, very fearless, and it's going to be a good test to see where Nyla Rose has landed, right? I've been putting over Nyla Rose's improvements since her return, since they all returned in January. I think she's a much better wrestler than she was last year. She's crisper. She's smoother. Her moves don't look like they hurt people. They actually connect. So it will be a good test as well on this stage here during the pay-per-view. We're going to get another women's match as well. Britt Baker versus Chris Statlander, which was set up last night. I don't know why Britt decided to put the lockjaw on Chris Statlander last night on outside of the ring while there's a match happening in the ring that she could be winning. Like, that kind of shit doesn't make sense to me. I don't know why you just wouldn't want to win the match. Maybe the match wasn't that important to watch in the first place. And if so, why am I watching it if it's not that important? You know what I mean? But that's the same match last night, right? The women's fatal four-way that JR told us in all his infinite wisdom that all women, you know, it's very well known that all women hate each other, right? We all knew that. We all know all women hate each other. We've got a tag team match, Private Party versus Best Friends, to determine the number one contender for the AEW World Tag Team Championship. Sure, that's a perfect buy-in match right there. For the pre-show, I think it's a tip-top match for that, if only because we've had these arguments before. It's like, oh, they're putting so-and-so on the pre-show, what disrespect. But the pre-show is given away free so that people will buy the goddamn show. So if you put on Michael Nakazawa versus Jabali, no one's going to be like, hey, I'm not paying $50 to watch goofy shit. No one is going to want to pay anything after seeing Jabali versus Nakazawa. And AEW has learned from that, and they are continuing to learn by putting two of their hottest tag teams, being Private Party and Best Friends, on the pre-show. It has the potential to draw attention. And another big match that was announced last night, which again has the potential to be, okay, I'm going to buy this match, this pay-per-view for this match. The Elite and Matt Hardy versus the Inner Circle in a Stadium Stampede match. And that's Chris Jericho, who laid out the challenge. Clearly it was accepted, and they're going to be fighting in a football stadium with 80,000 empty seats. But hey, this feels like it's going to be a cinematic. I don't know. This is just a gut feeling. But I'm here for that because the wild brawls that AEW has been putting on recently have been so much fun. And I'm not just talking about last week's match between Le Sex Gods and Matt Hardy and Kenny Omega. We can also talk about that tag team match, Kip Sabian and Jimmy Havoc versus the Best Friends from a couple of weeks ago. That was wild too. They've been doing real good work with their empty arenas, with their no DQ matches, and you've got some of the most creative minds in there. And Jake Hager. So it should be a lot of fun. I'm really looking forward to this. Now you've got yourself a card. Now you've got a couple of matches here where even the most casual fan will be like, hey, you know what? This will probably rule. This is going to be worth me plunking down the $50. So that's really cool.
Yeah.
So, thank you for that. So it makes a little more sense to want to put down that amount of money, right? Moving forward, I think this is a good card so far. And of course I'm talking about the $50 in the United States. I know it's cheaper elsewhere in the world, but hey, by the way, if you're listening or watching the Mr. Warren Hayes show right now, I'm running a giveaway right now on my Twitter account, twitter.com/MrWarrenHayes. Go to the pinned tweet and because I'm giving away a code for international fight viewers. If you're in Canada, look, if you're not in the United States, that's essentially it. If you're not a resident of the United States, head on over to and you'd like to watch Double or Nothing for free. Well, I'm giving away a code, an international code for Double or Nothing. So head on over there, retweet the pinned tweet that you see there. Make sure you follow me and Fight, and you'll be entered in a chance to win. So check that out. I'm looking forward now, officially, I'm looking forward to Double or Nothing. Feels like a much more rounded card. I knew it would be. They weren't going to just stop with the 4 matches that they announced. You know, of course there was more stuff to come out, but yeah, there you go. Anakin leaves a super chat. Thank you again, Anakin. He says, what's the better epic poem? Song of Hiawatha or Epic of Gilgamesh? Ooh. You know what? I'm more of a oh, it's a tough one, isn't it? It's really a tough one, but see, I'm more of an Anglo-Saxon, like an old Anglo-Saxon poetry and stuff like that. Beowulf is my thing. Gilgamesh in a second, I'd say. Some literature talk here, elevating the conversation. Throwback leaves another super chat. Thank you so much, Throwback. He says, tick tock, the end is near. Tick tock, Karrion Kross and Scarlett promo had an Easter egg in it with a quote from Undisputed Era, I think. Yeah, he said, we're not here to shock the system or something like that. He called out a couple of backhandedly called out a couple of not promoters, but wrestlers. Bring on Ciampa versus Kross and let them go like Ciampa did with Gargano. That's going to be a good one. That's definitely something they have to do at the next at TakeOver. Should be a lot of fun. Are you kidding me? And thank you, Throwback, also for pointing out that I still had the warm soda sticker up. Anakin leaves another super chat and he said, I'd pop during the Elite Inner Circle match if R-Truth beats Gronk for the 24/7 title. Can you imagine if that happened like simultaneously, you know, on a Saturday night, and they start broadcasting it live like on Periscope or some shit like that? That'd be funny. And Anakin leaves another super chat, says, gotta go with the Epic of Gilgamesh. Shaka. When the walls fell, after all, that's a Star Trek joke. If you didn't know, I'll take your word for it. Sounds a little obscure as far as Star Trek references go for me. Let's wrap. We're gonna wrap this up by talking about something that a lot of us are excited to see back. Yes, folks, we are getting. It is the revenge of the brand split. My God, the brand split is back in WWE, baby. It's an invitation, right? An open brand invitation, so people can hop back and forth now, willy-nilly, just to make sure that WWE never really sticks to their brand split anymore, just to make sure that they completely continue to muddy the waters and not make us care, and then try to make us feel like Survivor Series is important because brand supremacy means everything. And when your brands are just like completely intertwined, mushed together, smushed together, schlepped. There's another literary reference there, folks. Naked Lunch, William S. Burroughs. If your brands are schlepped together, who cares about Survivor Series, right? But hey, it's not Survivor Series season yet. But still, it's fucking irritating. Because the brand split was legitimately one of the reasons that made it so hard for me to watch WWE when that shit was going on. Not the brand split, excuse me, the wild card rule. It was infuriating, and it really, really made it difficult. And it was so absurd when the wildcard rule was happening, because on top of it all, they had all these women and men in their rosters that they weren't using and felt like they had to have Roman on every show, and it was painful. And now we're going back to that. Now, I'm going to give him a little loose here. I'm going to just give him a little room to wiggle, because I also understand that we are living in unique circumstances right now. that maybe doesn't give time. Maybe it's not exactly the best time in the history of pro wrestling right now to have your entire roster at your fingertips and available to do whatever, right? So if you're running at a smaller capacity regarding your roster, maybe you have, instead of having 100%, you have, I don't know how much they have, 50% of your roster is available. Well, maybe it's a good idea to sort of let the brands be a little more porous so that people can move back and forth much more easily and have some refreshing matches. Because we've seen recently, especially on Raw, having Drew week after week fighting off Andrade and the other members of LIJ Central Florida. Shout out to Brandon Stroud for that one. That one made me laugh. I have full authorization to use that, by the way. LIJ Central Florida. See, we get that week after week and we're like, my God, again, we're doing this again. So if this will be forgiven, the wild card rule here, or whatever you want to call it, the invitational, will be forgiven if we are able to get fresh and new matches week in, week out. That'll be 100% okay with. Because if I were to put myself in WWE's shoes, I probably would find it real difficult to try and come up with fresh matches and new angles week after week when you have very limited rosters. And if you're limiting your rosters even further because you're doing a brand split, and then it got me to thinking, well, if we're ready to sort of let the brands become a little more porous, then how can we make this even more interesting? Other than just saying, hey, Charlotte Flair can show up on SmackDown this week. Hey, next week we're getting Baron Corbin. Because here's the thing. Here's the other thing. If you're giving me Drew McIntyre versus Baron Corbin, that is not a good justification as to opening up the borders of the brands and letting people jump from side to side. I don't want to see that match. It doesn't interest me. It'll probably be fine because they're both wrestlers, but I don't want to see it. You get my point? I don't want to see Drew McIntyre and Baron Corbin. I just don't care. But I'm getting off track. How do we make the brand split even better? Open it up for real and include NXT. It's a triple. NXT competed in Survivor Series as a full-on brand, right? There you go. Get our NXT folk involved into main roster stuff and vice versa, because clearly the borders coming from, because it's not down anymore, right? It's not minor leagues anymore. Coming in from Raw and SmackDown to NXT is clearly possible. We've seen it in the past. Recent past, it's not a problem. But going from NXT to the other brands, it's a little trickier. Not everyone can do it. Rhea Ripley's done it. We saw it during Survivor Series. Sure, that's fine. But it doesn't happen very often. This would be a damn good way to get things really, really interesting. And fresh, interesting matches, new angles, so on and so forth. There's ways to make this really fucking interesting at this point. But then the other thing I think that they should that could be done, not that they should really do, but I think could be done, and it'd be controversial and would require a rebuilding of how you think things. Have the titles be brand agnostic. No more one title on Raw, one title on SmackDown. Have everything mix and match. In fact, you know what? Merge the goddamn things. Merge your world titles into one. merge your workhorse titles, or at least retire the US title, keep the IC title, merge the tag titles, and merge the women's titles, and have everyone just go from brand to brand. That's the best way to ensure that you are always having your top guy or gal versus a top challenger built on either brand. Of course, I'm just talking about Raw and SmackDown. I think NXT, it's his own little bubble, but if you want to go all in, might as well go all in. It's still fascinating to me that it still fascinates me that we've gone from a moment in history when WCW was purchased, where they had the two titles, and then they merged them together, and then they split them apart again to create the brands. But then they come back. When clearly, I mean, it's overblown as far as titles go. And you currently have two world level titles. The WWE Championship and the Universal Championship are technically like your world level championships. I don't know why there's not just one. I don't think you need two mid-card titles for the men. I really don't. I think you can easily retire the US Championship. Keep the IC title, because the IC title is the WWE's. It has the history. It has the not that the US title doesn't have history, but the WWE could play that card and say, we're keeping the IC title because it's ours. We built this one. I think that's okay. And WWE has such trouble building female stars, building the women's division outside of the Four Horsewomen. Why do you have two titles if they're always going to be like passed around Becky and Sasha and Charlotte and Bayley? Or create a women's mid-card title, which is something I feel could be needed, could be needed, but not one mid-card title for the women per brand, because there's not enough women and there's not enough protected women to have both a top tier and a mid-card title. It just doesn't make sense. There's a lot that they could do. Now it just feels like it's another reaction to a poor situation. Again, I'll give them credit that, if they're clearly not working with all their roster. They can try as hard as they can. They're trying as hard as they can to put on the shows with the staff they have, and I can appreciate that they want just things to be able to be a little more fluid. I can get behind that. But man, try to make it interesting. Try to make it interesting for us, other than just saying the brands are open. No one buys into the brand supremacy thing outside of Vince McMahon and some executives and people in creative, because they were told by Vince McMahon that brand supremacy is important. We know it's all one company. We know it's all one bunch of wrestlers that are just relegated to shows, essentially. We don't really mind. We just want to see a variety of people week after week. I'm fearful that we're going to get the same people on the same shows all the time, kind of like we had during the last time the wildcard rule happened. That's my only fear. I just want them to make it interesting. And I think there's ways to make it interesting. So yeah. Anakin leaves another super chat. Thank you again, Anakin. He says, I give WWE a little more slack right now. With only 30% of the roster and losing their two biggest stars in Roman and Becky for an unknown length of time, it's got to be hard to keep things interesting. You make a very good point with Becky and Roman on top of that, and I completely agree. Is it 30% of the roster? I don't know how much of the roster they're operating on, but it is an inferior number. Like, they don't have all the staff. So as myself, I'm not like going, oh my God, the wild card rule is back. Somebody kill me. I understand why they're doing it. And if it keeps things interesting, that's what's most important. Touch wood. We'll give him the benefit of the doubt like we always do. Throwback leaves another super chat. Thank you. And he says, Drew versus Cole, Cross versus Styles, Lee versus Braun, or put NXT talent in the IC tournament. Yes, exactly. See, once you get NXT into the mix, hey, you know what? Drew versus Cross, Drew versus Ciampa. By God, just think about that for a minute. And Ciampa's not a big guy, you know, he's smaller than Drew, but he's jacked. Think about that for a second. There's so many good matches that we could be getting if they wanted to include that brand split in there. Include NXT into the invitational stuff. Well, if there's one invitation that I will extend to you is to come back next week. Also, maybe leave a thumbs up here on the video here on youtube.com/MrWarrenHayes that you're watching. Anakin just dropped a super chat. I'll just read it real quick here. It says, Drew never got his rematch for the NXT title. That is true. But hey, yeah, so leave a thumbs up on the video if you had a good time. And you know what? If you made it this far on the video, go into the comments in the YouTube comments section and leave in the comments, just write the words wild card. And that will show that you stayed to the very end. And I am very proud of you for staying to the very end here tonight. Be sure to come join me tomorrow on the Fightful. On Fightful, I will be doing the SmackDown recap with your boy Sean. And be sure to come see us over on patreon.com/MrWarrenHayes. Immediately in just a few minutes, I'm going to start up another stream with Warren is off the clock. We're going to do the post stream, talk about more wrestling stuff, including the IC tournament, Sami Zayn, and justice for Sami, or whatever, that kind of stuff. No, we're not talking about Goldberg. We're not talking about Goldberg. By God. Everyone, thank you very much for tuning in. I'll see you next time.